Welcome back, everybody, to Niko's comic book hauls and reviews on the late night collectors community. I'm your host, Niko, and today we're going to be discussing and showing off all of the books that I hauled throughout the month of March 2022. I'll be talking about all the books and showing them off here today. All the ones that I have read previously or have a history of reading in the past, maybe have read them for the first time this past month, and giving you my reviews and thoughts on those books, as well as some of the books that I'll be looking forward to checking out for the first time. Pretty much almost everything had come out throughout the month of March, but if there's something that maybe I just picked up for the first time that I wanted to show off, I'll let you guys know which ones aren't newer releases that I do check out here today. So, once again, as always, guys, if you like what you saw here today, please hit that thumbs up button. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. I do try to drop these monthly and on time lately. That's been going well so far. I got other videos planned coming out soon. Like a tour video of my room that I'm sitting in here, showing off some more things, possibly more reviews and things to come. So stay tuned. Trying to think up some more comic content type videos I can put out here for you guys. And as always, check out our weekly new comic book review show that we do, me and my co-host Chris, every week, Comic Shop Talk. That's where we kind of discuss the new single issue release comics that come out week to week and give you our reviews and thoughts on those as well. That comes out weekly. So yeah, hit the notification bell and all that good stuff. Subscribe, thumbs up button. And without further ado, let's get into the books, shall we? All right. First up, we got a book that's been getting a lot of praise. I think it was on a lot of the best of lists, concluding out last year. And the first trade paperback just came out last month. And for a big profile writer these days, it just seems to be knocking it out of the park on everything he's been doing lately. James Tynion. This is The Nice House on the Lake. It's coming out through DC Black Label. It's slated to be a 12-issue series. This trade paperback collects the first 6 issues. Take a look inside. The artist is Alvaro Martinez Bueno. And we got Jordi Belair in colors. And yeah, I mean, this deserves a lot of the hype that it's been getting. It was quite enjoyable. I really, really liked it. I think it's an interesting story that they're fleshing out. Really interesting mystery. The art was really good. It's kind of rated like, maybe like something like you'd expect from like a Vertigo comic from back in the day, because of course that's what DC Black Label is now. But yeah, it's good. It's a good creator-owned title by James Tynion. It's one of the last things I think he's doing now over at DC Comics, as it's still coming out, and he had planned to release it there, but now he's kind of doing his Substack newsletter thing. I think he's going to be self-publishing a lot of stuff, or at least bringing the physical copies of books that he puts out through Substack now to places like Dark Horse and Image, probably Image, because he's got a bunch of things going on over there right now, Department of Truth. And yeah, this is just really, really good. Honestly, it deserves. This is one of those books that gets a lot of hype that I think deserves the hype. I don't really want to spoil anything about this. Even this scene, very spoilery, so I'm not going to explain what's going on there. Yeah, it's to be honest, by the end of this, you still don't really know 100% what's going on. We're kind of getting morsels. We're learning things throughout the whole story that's being told about these characters. Basically, a bunch of people that somehow, I guess some of them loosely know each other. There's one dude that has a bunch of friends that I guess, as you meet other friends through friends, sometimes you get to know some people somewhat, just through your friend as an acquaintance, whether it be at parties or just, meeting up with them. And so there's a bunch of people that somewhat know each other, some people that are closer than others, and everyone that's close with this one guy that invites these people to this really, really nice, amazing house on this lake for some sort of a party where it looks like they have everything in order for them. Like, the house is stocked. It's just an amazing view, an amazing kind of like, probably $1 million kind of home that this guy invites them to. And they all get together, and then, some things get set in motion, and that's all. I'll leave it at that. So basically, you kind of, you know, learn more about the characters as you go on throughout. I just think it's very dense. He packed in a lot of stuff with these first 6 issues. The fact that it's only going to be another 6 issues, I'm really looking forward to it. I'm sure like a deluxe hardcover or something will come out of this series, given the hype that surrounded it after the second trade paperback gets released. And I'll gladly double dip, because I don't see this, going sideways. I thought this was really well constructed, really well done, great art, great story. And yeah, really, really enjoyed it. So I think it's one of those books, like I said, deserves all the praise it's getting. Nice House on the Lake. If you haven't read it or checked it out yet, do yourself a favor and do so. All right. And I got some manga. By the way, these are all the books that I have read that I picked up throughout the month of March 2022. So all these ones I'll be showing off first are things that I have read either this past month or I've read them before. So I try to keep up to date with a lot of the things that I buy. If I haven't already like read it previously, I try to read it the month I pick it up to kind of justify again a lot of the the fact that I make so many purchases when it comes to collected editions. But there's some things here that I've read before, whether it be in issues or just a different format, and this is like an upgrade to like a nice hardcover or something like that, of things that I've read before that I'm not necessarily going to reread again when I do pick them up. And like I say, I try to let people know, let them know where I'm coming from with that, and give you my honest reviews on them as we go. These aren't just haul videos, right? I know some people like to focus on the books, all the insides and outs and contents of these things when we do the haul videos. I'd like to kind of do a little bit of both. So that's I hope why people come here to check these videos out. So yeah, this is Berserk. This is the deluxe edition, number 10, volume 10 of Berserk. I'm still really, really enjoying this series. I think it's probably going to be like maybe like 13 volumes when it's all said and done. 13 or 14 volumes because, obviously he was not able to finish the series before he died. This one has some posters in it. I guess maybe the single individual, the smaller tankobons, maybe they had these posters in it as well from Dark Horse. I know that some volumes did. So you get some posters here, which I'll show off here. You get that one. This one here. I mean, these are things I'm just going to keep in the book. I don't really have room for posters or want or need for them. So there you go. There's that. Okay. And you got this one here. And yeah. So yeah, some nice posters though, but as I mentioned, I'm just going to keep them inside the book. And then, of course, there's that one. And this one here. That one's really grisly. That's a scary looking one. All right. So yeah, this is this volume I quite enjoyed. I actually like this volume, I think, more than the previous couple of volumes. They've definitely gone more into like the fantasy arena lately with this Berserk, even though it's always been kind of like a dark gothic fantasy type book. But I think with the introduction of a lot of the things that they've been focusing on, like the fairies and like other kind of magics, and now this witch character that's come into the book. Apologies, I don't remember her name. I guess it tells you right here, this index, which has become very useful with all the characters now. Shirky. Anyways, yeah, it's her without the hat on. Not to say that it's been bad ever. I think it's been great, and there's always great art. But I think that this was one of the stronger volumes I felt because they're starting to focus a little bit more on Guts in this one and kind of like his past once again, and some of the things that were set in motion previous to the last couple of volumes worth of like encounters that they've been kind of coming across in this messed up dark world that they depicting in this story. But yeah, I really enjoyed, as always. Like, I can't wait till the conclusion. Yeah, this guy shows back up, this Dark Rider dude. Like, yeah. So just some of the elements and things they chose to focus on in this one, I preferred than the previous couple of volumes. There's some slow stuff going on, like new things that they were setting up, storylines in the last couple of volumes, which I'm sure will come to fruition somewhere down the road, or maybe not at all because of the fact that Mira, passed away. But always excellent art, always interesting. Really, really dig these. Gonna keep picking up the deluxe editions until they're all completed. And I don't really want someone to pick up I don't know if there's talks. I remember there was something about maybe it was his son, or he told basically, I think from what I've heard, or this could just be rumors, on his deathbed, he had talked about the ending and he had in mind for Berserk, whether or not someone else is going to pick up the mantle and complete it. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I even would like that, would like that. I know I'm late to the party and finally being able to enjoy these things since the start of the deluxe editions coming out. But I'm so glad I finally did. And these are such nice editions to have on the bookshelf, and I'm not going to be ever getting rid of them. So I'm happy to add them to my library. So yeah, I'm looking forward to more. I'm sure a lot of people out there have already read them. online or previously with the single volumes. But when I kind of got into it, a lot of those were very hard to get your hands on. A lot of them were out of print. So, like, the fact that I'm finally getting to experience this story and check out some of the stuff that, yeah, I mean, that goes on in it. Just awesome. I'm having a really good time with it. So, all right, this Berserk Volume 10. And let's keep it going with the manga here. We got Fist of the North Star Volume 4. Also for the first time, I guess, getting printed in English, or not translated to English for the first time. That happened back in the 90s. I think they were releasing single issues through Viz or back then. There's a bunch of, and there was also, I think, earlier volume paperbacks that they had, but I don't think they've ever completed the series in English. And if they had, they're way, 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 way out of print. The fact that they're finally re-releasing it after being out of print for so long and completing them in this format, these nice hardcover formats that the Viz has been putting out, that I'm very thankful for. So sorry, as I misspoke there a little bit. But yeah, I've really been enjoying this one. Likewise, the first issue, loved it. The last two, the first volume, I really loved it. The last two volumes, not as strong of a start, kind of just more so continued. I felt like in the same direction, or like the way the story was being told. And I know this is like a fighting manga, so like you're probably not going to get, too deep into the weeds in terms of character development and things in this series. And it's probably going to be a lot of more of the same as you kind of progress throughout. And at least from what I've heard, that's kind of like, kind of the case. But in this one, you do get to learn a little bit more about the main protagonist's background and like past and his relationship with other people that he encounters in the specific volume. So once again, I really enjoyed this volume more than the previous couple of volumes ever since probably the series started. Not that I haven't been enjoying it. I've still very much have been enjoying it. But yeah, you learn about a lot about him, or at least a little bit more than we knew previously about his past and people that he's known that he's meeting out on the road here in this like Mad Max post-apocalyptic kind of setting that we're dealing with right now. And yeah, he kicks all kinds of ass in this, as always. I mean, there's one thing you can count on, that he's going to kick all kinds of ass, and that's basically what we saw in this volume once again. Great art, great fighting manga. Really, really enjoy it. I love it every time a new volume comes out. I'm glad I'm finally able to experience this book because I've heard a lot about it and was never able to track down any of the older volumes. Yeah, this dude with the mangled up face, met him that he fucked up back in the past. All these guys are like disfigured and messed up, like have been guys that have crossed paths with him at some point, one point or another, it seems like. So it's funny that they keep popping up now and giving him a hard time. It's like, haven't you learned your lesson? Ken, yeah, that's his name. Anyways, he wields the Hokuto Shinken martial arts style. Yeah, so where he can just hit you in a bunch of places, pinpoints on your body, and shit just explodes all of a sudden. So yeah, so Fist of the North Star, quite enjoy that series. Next up, we got Lobster Johnson. This is the Omnibus Volume 1, the hardcover from Dark Horse Comics that have come out now. And these are collecting, I think, the first 3 previously released paperbacks of Lobster Johnson. Let me just confirm that here for you guys. This one collects the trade volumes, The Burning Hands, Satan Smells a Rat, and Get the Lobster, and the short story Lobster Johnson, The Empty Chair. So yeah, I think this is probably about the first 3 paperbacks worth of material. These omnibus hardcovers usually do that. They kind of got above 3 of the previous release paperback stuff in here. Lobster Johnson, I mean, maybe there's about 2 omnibus worths of this material, maybe 3 by this point. I think when I was reading the trades, about 3 or 4 volumes into the trades, I kind of ditched that format because I assumed they would eventually collect them like this. And let's take a look under that. Like always with these hardcovers, they got this simple under the dust jacket, kind of just printed on black hardcovers for foil, kind of embossed foil look to it. And they're slick, they're nice looking, they're simple, and they're not taller in scale than a regular trade paperback, these hardcovers, but I do like the omnibus. Even though it's called omnibus, they're not like an oversized hardcover or a library edition or oversized deluxe edition of them. they are still like kind of about the same scale, but I do like them in the hardcover format. And I have all the BPRD ones like this. I have the Witchfinder ones now, and now they're coming out with the Lobster Johnson ones. I have the Abe Sapien ones like this. So I really just wait for these formats when it comes to the Mignola. Outside of the Hellboy kind of stuff, like the Mignola verse, I always pick up these hardcovers. I do really enjoy them. Lobster Johnson, of course, Tonchi Zonsic, who's the artist, and if I'm saying that name incorrectly, my apologies. He's the one that kind of writes a lot of these and draws these. His art style is really great, really unique. I think it's probably you can compare it to maybe some great European artists, his line work or the way his character work looks. Not something I think you see many big two kind of artists like the look of today. Very slick, clean line, very unique looking characters, and this style just really, really good looking. I really like it quite a bit. Yeah, Mike Mignola did that one with John Arcudi. The other people that do a lot of these, John Arcudi especially, like I know Mike kind of plots a lot of this stuff as well. And yeah, I mean, these are great kind of pulpy, pulp superhero type stories that they've referenced him in the Hellboy stuff, although like there's not been, and if there has been at this point, it took a long time for them to actually make that clear that they are in the same universe or that they've crossed paths before, for that matter. But yeah, this is definitely old school pulp superhero type storytelling stuff. So if you like any pulp characters, superhero stuff from back in the day, this is definitely worth a look. I really do quite enjoy it. I thought I've read all the material that's in this omnibus previously through the paperbacks, but once the second volume comes out, there's going to be a couple of stories there that I've never read, so I'll be checking out for the first time. So I very much looking forward to that. So yeah, so these are great. These retail for about $40 US. These omnibuses, they're worth every penny. The Mignola verse stuff always have great artists working on it. Really interesting and fun stories. And if you're into pulp stuff, definitely pick up Lobster Johnson, the omnibus volume 1. All right, next up we got Superman, the Man of Steel, Volume 4. This is the last of the John Byrne hardcovers, I believe, that they're going to be bringing out from DC Comics of the Man of Steel stuff, the 3 series, I guess, that were going concurrently that John Byrne was writing and drawing, basically almost all of them at that point. I think Jerry Ordway and then Jerry Conway at one point were doing the Adventures of Superman issues of the previous volumes. But I think once you get down to this volume in particular, and this is under the dust jacket, really nice. I think it's just all John Byrne. Oh no, Ordway's on it. It's Carl Kessel, John Beatty on inks. Yeah, so you got some good stuff in here, man. Like I've really enjoyed this John Byrne Superman run. I read all of these hardcovers recently. Maybe in previous videos I said I had never read it before, but I finally got caught up in time for this 4th volume to release. And I've read them all now. I got to say, again, this is one of those things a lot of people praise the John Byrne Superman era. He was big at Marvel, then came over and kind of redid Superman for that generation, or kind of reimagined him, and a lot of people really enjoy this run. I know a lot of people are disappointed in DC not getting their shit together and putting out an omnibus finally of this run, and then they finally gave us these hardcovers. I don't know if they actually do come to their senses and release a omnibus, even though they've solicited in the past and canceled it and failed to actually ever bring it out. If they ever do announce an omnibus for this, I don't know if I'll necessarily upgrade. I mean, I like John Byrne's art and some of the other artists that he worked with in this his time on the Superman books, but I do like these hardcovers. They're not oversized, but they look good on the shelf. I do like the material. Superman's not my favorite character, but I guess we'll see. I say that now, maybe I will upgrade. I did really enjoy the John Byrne run on Superman, though. This series it didn't feel like the ending of his time on the books. Like, I don't think he made it seem like, in a way, like it was like his final stamp or take on the character. And, I guess for people that were coming on the book after that, maybe that's the way they wanted to leave it, because he kind of came and left his mark already on the character, and other people would come in their wake with this post-crisis Superman take, and then put their own kind of spin on things, I guess. But yeah, I still really enjoyed it. I thought, I think probably the previous volumes, maybe two or I think the second volume was my favorite of all the material that was in this. 2 or 3, I think it was 2. Even the first one was really, really good. But yeah, this had some fun stories in it, and like I mentioned, some great artists along the way, and great classic DC stuff. I'm really kind of got I hit a sweet spot of post-crisis DC stuff lately. I really enjoy stuff that came out around the 80s, prior to the early 90s, that DC was putting out. I've learned now, being more of a Marvel guy all these years, although I do also like DC, just like good stories. I finally found out, I think I realized that this is the era that I like the best. This is the post-crisis stuff. Anyways, this one collected Action Comics 598 to 600, Superman 16 to 22, Superman Annual 2, and Adventures of Superman 439 to 444, and Doom Patrol 10, which I think John Byrne was also drawing and writing at that time. If this isn't the issue that happened during his time on the book, it may have happened like right after, during the 90s or something. So I might be wrong on that one. But anyways, yeah, so there you go. Superman, the Man of Steel, Volume 4 from DC Comics. I think they're done with all the John Byrne hardcovers now. Now it's time to announce that omnibus. All right. And then next up, we got Volume 26. Yes, that's right, guys. They finally finished out the John Constantine Hellblazer. I'm stuttering there. The John Constantine Hellblazer paperbacks from DC. Maybe even started out as DC Vertigo when they started out this line of paperbacks. It's probably been several years since they first started it. But guys, all of Hellblazer was collected in these paperback formats, these thick paperback formats. Volume 26 actually came out. Oh, look, it does still say DC Vertigo. I thought maybe they would have put the black label on there. So there you go. They actually finished the series, guys. I know DC hasn't been that consistent in terms of their releases of certain series in the past, leaving things uncollected if it didn't sell well. I guess these did good enough, or the fact they actually wanted to honor this great series of fantastic artists and writers and creators that have worked on this series through the heyday of Vertigo. Over 300 issues of Hellblazer, 300 of the main series plus some mini series along the way, collected in these 26 volumes of the paperback. And we made it, guys. I mean, I'm just so happy to have all these on my shelf. I even have a double dipped. I have the I got the Garth Ennis Hellblazer omnibus as well, but I also got it collected in these paperbacks. So I'm just a huge fan of the character, huge fan of all the work that they did on this series. Some great stuff. This one collected the issues 292 to 300, Hellblazer Annual #1, and Hellblazer Special Bad Blood 1 to 4. And this was, I guess, the end of Peter Milligan's run on the character, who was the last person, I guess, to write him during the main Vertigo years. And then also that Bad Blood miniseries at the end is written by Jamie Delano, of course. And, Giuseppe Caimicoli, Stefano Landini, Simon Bisley, Philip Bond, Warren Pleece are some of the artists on this one. So yeah, just great murder's row of artists and writers that have worked on the character. One of the most consistent, I think, series I've ever read for 300 issues, which I don't even know if I've read anything other than obviously like your basic Batman or Spider-Man or whatever, things that. And even that, like this is the most like of a series though, with just different writers and artists hopping on it. I can't say that there's been a more consecutive type of book in terms of quality, like even the Manolaverse like stuff that I was just talking about there, because they always have good artists and writing talent and stuff like that on them. But like this series, honestly, it's probably the best and probably my favorite. Just great artists throughout. They got the Simon Bisley, I think, at this point. Yeah, that's, I think, Simon Bisley. And Caimicoli is on a lot of these issues too. That all being said, though, I was a little disappointed by the ending. I mean, there's been some good Hellblazer stuff since this time. I know they brought out some good Black Label stuff. That Cy Spurrier series that was canceled way too early that he was doing, like I think they did 12 issues of that. That was really good. Tom Taylor did a DC Black Label book on this. There's been some main DCU type stuff that now that Constantine's been in the universe, very little of it though. There's been some interesting stuff there. But yeah, I mean, I gotta say, Peter Milligan's run I actually really quite enjoyed, but I think it kind of just petered out at the end. Well, honestly, his ending was like very, I guess, what you would expect or predictable of Hellblazer or John Constantine in that sense, for that matter. But so I guess in that sense, it made sense, but like it just kind of felt like anticlimactic in a way. Like, but I guess at that point they were like, well, this isn't the last we're going to see of him. They were bringing him into the DCU universe, but like, that's not the same. That's not the same Constantine. You can't do stuff like you did in Hellblazer that's this dark and adult. But now, luckily with the DC Black Label continuing basically, which is Vertigo, and they may have chances to do more stuff like this. So, anyways, while I thought it was a good volume, it wasn't. It was, far from my favorite, and quite frankly, it was like, it just left me wanting at the end. I was just really like, really, that's the end. Like, it was almost one of those things where I didn't even notice, like, it was at the end after reading that last issue. So yeah, it is what it is. But that all being said, again, guys, this is one of the most consistently great series. Track these volumes down if you don't have them. They collected the whole series, the whole 300 plus series in these paperbacks. All right, and this is a big get. This is a huge get right here for me, guys. This is the limited edition of 7,000 printed book of JLA Avengers, the Kurt Busiek and, most importantly, George Perez classic intercompany crossover between these two companies that happened back in the day, collected in this special Hero Initiative um, released paperback, essentially, that they did to raise money for the Hero Initiative, with George Perez's blessing, because, at first that he's been diagnosed the cancer that he's not going to survive long from, and they gave him so many months to live, and he chose to not undergo further treatment, because he just wants to it probably isn't going to take, and he just wanted to live out his final days with his loved ones, his family, his friends, his fans. And therefore they announced that it was a shame that this book was out of print, and they wanted to showcase George Perez's work between these two companies, because he did so much great work between Marvel and DC. And it just seems like, just loved every minute of it. So you never hear, it was one of those creators you never heard a bad word about from creators and fans alike. And the fact that they actually released this book and actually got this printed, unfortunately, only for 7,000 copy run. I know that there was a lot of scalpers kind of profiting off this online. A lot of them were justifying it by maybe donating the money to the Hero Initiative, or, comic shops were raffling off copies and stuff like that. Again, trying to raise money for the Hero Initiative. Like, that's not as bad, but I mean, like, if you're profiting off of the release of this, it's just, I think that's terrible. But that's just my 2 cents on that. But anyways, I was lucky enough to secure a copy through my LCS of this. So, again, very fortunate to have owned this, but already, like, prices of this are going for over $200 online for this, because it's a limited edition paperback. It's JLA Avengers. I mean, what else is there to say? Like I said, some great, fantastic art from George Perez. I read this, and I got the single issue still that I own. Never was able to pick up the absolute edition, but I would love to have that. But again, that's online. It's like, I'm paying $1,000 on the aftermarket to pick that one up. But so I'm very happy to own this paperback, though. And yeah, Kurt Busiek, great story told by Kurt Busiek. Known for his his time. He has great knowledge, like very much like Mark Waid of both of these comic companies and the characters involved. So I think that if you weren't going to get someone like Waid, I think Kurt Busiek is just as good. And in that same regard, has got that kind of old school throwback, you kind of good old superhero style that you kind of want for a collaboration like this. Of course, Kurt Busiek had worked with George Perez during his Avengers run around this same time. So the fact that they actually got them to do this back in a time when the companies, I guess during the 90s, were like, like not doing so well after the bubble burst of the 90s speculation time of the comics in the 90s, right? And all the trash that was being put out. They needed to shake it up and do something cool like this. This was at a time where they actually collaborated a lot and crossed over a lot of their properties in order to kind of, for the greater gain of actually making more money for themselves at that point when they weren't doing so hot, right? Something like this would not exist today. The fact that they gave the okay to go forward with this reprint, even if it was just for 7,000 copies, is honestly truly a surprise and a treat. And the fact that I do get to own this, very happy to. So, anyways, that all being said, if you were lucky enough and fortunate enough to get a copy of this, that's great. All the proceeds to these sales did go to the Hero Initiative. And even if you did not, and you can find the issues of this, or one of the older paperback or anything like that, go out and check this series out if you can find it somewhere. It is a great one, and give money to the Hero Initiative as well. It is a good cause for it basically helping creators in need, because these guys don't have all great health. They don't have health benefits. A lot of these guys do work for hire type gigs. So therefore, they've been there for a lot of creators when they have needed it. So it's a good cause. All right. Speaking of Kurt Busiek, this is the release of the Astro City Metro book #1. They're finally now that actually he's doing a lot of stuff with Image. Kurt Busiek, he brought over his Astro City previously through Wildstorm and DC Comics, and then they even did a Vertigo series. They probably started out coming out several years ago now. And now he's brought his licensing for this and to publish it over to Image Comics. And Astro City is him and Brent Anderson. And again, Alex Ross on covers, just beautiful looking covers. And this is a thick paperback, guys. This is a thick paperback. Honestly, this is $30 retail, US retail. Collects the first 18 issues of of Astro City. If you guys have never read this, this is good old superhero type stuff right here. This is Kurt Busiek basically establishing, like creating his own little superhero universe with all characters that he made up. Definitely, even though it came out through Wildstorm, it had nothing to do with the DC universe at that time. This is like his own little corner and own little creations, and everything that he had come up with, like, almost like a golden age kind of feel to the start of superheroes and stuff, with beautiful Alex Ross covers, and Brent Anderson. I mean, like, he's a good artist in terms of, like, he fits this book. Definitely very old school looking art and art style, but I wouldn't say he's my favorite artist by any means, and nor would I like to see him draw, lots of other books for that matter. But I think he's a great fit for this title. So yeah, again, this is just it is like pulpy or like old school kind of golden age, kind of like going through the Silver Age. Like, they even get to one part which I heard was like the downfall of the Astro City for a little while, was they got to something called the Dark Age, I guess, where things got grim and gritty. Probably his treatise on the whole late 80s 90s type superhero kind of stuff that was with the Dark Knight and all that. But anyways, like I said, he's continued it from like a sub company to sub company through DC Comics, Wildstorm to Vertigo or whatever else, to get this published. Now it's over at Image. He already released a one shot to kind of bring you back into the world of Astro City. I believe they're going to be continuing to do an ongoing soon. And they're bringing out, I think it's going to be like 6 volumes, so all said and done, I believe, of this series that they mentioned, of these thick Metro book volumes. But yeah, these thick paperbacks for $30, I loved revisit. I read like some of the stories in this. I had a bunch of different collections, like older collections of Astro City that I've read before, so I already knew I liked it, but I haven't read everything. So I just read this whole thing again, even though like I said, I read like probably the first 6 issues of this. Just excellent stuff. Loved it. Loved every moment of it. And I can't wait for more, till more comes out of these Metro books. Keep bringing them out, guys. I mean, like, yeah, I think they said there's going to be about 6 volumes, and then they might even collect these into deluxe hardcovers somewhere down the line. Now, if that actually happens based on Brent Anderson's art and, my like of it, but not love of it, I don't know if I'm going to upgrade. I am quite happy with these thick paperbacks, actually, believe it or not, even though I usually lean more towards the deluxe hardcovers. I just don't know, like, that's not going to happen anytime soon, guys. It could be talking about maybe a couple of years, even if that does happen. So I'm not going to wait. I'm going to be picking up these thick Metro books and reading Astro City and taking it all in, checking it out for the first time for the most part. So yeah, Astro City, Kurt Busiek, definitely check this out, guys. Metro book volume 1. And then speaking of George Perez, went through Kurt Busiek and George Perez's collaboration, and now we're going to talk about George Perez after talking about Kurt Busiek's Astro City. This is the absolute edition of his time on Wonder Woman that came out. This is beautiful, guys. This is the Wonder Woman Gods and Mortals Absolute Edition from DC Comics. Here, let me show off. This is the slipcase that comes with the book on the Absolute, because Absolutes have slipcases. It's gold, as you can see. That's that side, this side here. And this is, I think, the first 14 issues. Yeah, the first 14 issues of his run on Wonder Woman. This is during the time he was writing and drawing. I believe he wrote, right, or sorry, I think Len Wein was writing this. Maybe he was plotting or co-writing with him. And but he only drew the first 24 issues of this series of his time on Wonder Woman. Of course, I think there's like 50 or 60 issues of his whole run where he was the main writer afterwards, but he only drew like the first 24. So, and this 14 issues Gods Immortal storyline, which basically reestablished the character again post crisis for all of us to this day, and reimagine the character and a lot of stuff that you see in the films. A lot of the interpretations that have survived to this day that you see nowadays are based on this George Perez Wonder Woman run. And I can't say I've read a whole bunch of Wonder Woman, but I have read this stuff before in the paperbacks they were releasing of George Perez stuff. They're going to be reprinting his omnibuses of this run as well. But to kind of George Perez's artwork, because of the detail that he puts into it, have it in an absolute form on this big grand scale, you got to pick this up, guys, if you're a fan of George Perez's artwork, because that's kind of the main draw on these absolute editions, especially with George Perez. So let's take a look at some of this. But yeah, again, you may think this is incomplete because it's only 14 issues of his run. So if you want the rest of the run, go for it in the omnibuses that I believe they're going to be reprinting again, or in the paperbacks. I think there's 6 paperbacks that collect his whole run on Wonder Woman. But again, I got this mostly for the art. So as long as they keep pumping out these nice deluxe editions, holy cow, see, like of his artwork or absolutes, I'll definitely be supporting them, because like, yeah, look at that. So yeah, let's take a look at some of his artwork on this series. Just flip through this for a bit. Yeah, I mean, his art is the best, I think, on this kind of scale, just because a lot of smaller kind of panels going on, a lot of detail going into the work here. Wow, look at that. So yeah, really happy to have this. And I'm probably even going to double dip on the omnibuses when they come out, because I do want his run. But, I think the first omnibus that they're going to be releasing is the volume 1 that collects all of the stuff that he drew. So I don't, even if I get my fill from the stuff that he drew here during this period and not the whole run, this might be a special exception where I don't be a completionist and I just check out the series for the stuff that he had drawn, because that's what I mainly want to check out is his artwork. So I'm glad that they collected these first 14 issues of his time on the book. So yeah, let's just take a flip through here. So I'm gonna check out maybe some crazier big panels that he did here. Great covers. Yeah. And if I'm not capturing it for you here, guys, on screen, I'm telling you, this is something you gotta check out for yourself, especially if you're a big George Perez fan, or in light of everything going on. If you're new to his work, now's the time, because they're going to be releasing a lot of his great stuff that he worked on. Yeah, that's awesome. Like Ares, God of War. All right, so there you go, guys. Wonder Woman, Gods Immortals Absolute from DC Comics. And then we got Deadly Class, Book 3 Deluxe Edition. Yeah. So this is like the library edition size, like stuff. They're bigger than a omnibus or deluxe edition, oversized. These hardcovers of Deadly Class by Rick Remender, Wes Craig on art. Huge fan of this series, guys. I love it. One of my favorite series, and it's actually in the last arc right now. I think there's only a few more issues to go, so there's going to be one more of these oversized hardcovers to come out that will finish off and collect the rest of the series. I buy the single issues and read this, guys, and then I double dip and pick up the hardcovers. That's how much I love this series. So worth every penny. Wes Craig's art, so great, so unlike anything else out there. Man, he's awesome. This is going to be like his magnum opus, honestly, this series when it's all said and done. And I can't wait to reread these again in this format. Rick Remender, he always puts out these oversized hardcovers for all of the books that he works on, because he always works with excellent artists. So I love that he continues to bring these out, and that there is definitely a market for it. Look at that. Fuck. Sorry, I'm just a huge fan of Wes Craig in this book, so I'm like getting giddy just looking through this one. This is actually one of the best months of hauls, guys, I think I've had ever on the channel. I forgot to mention that at the start, but if you're still with me, I gotta say that this is probably at least one of the most impressive kind of month of releases that I've had of things I've been looking forward to this past one. So, and that's saying a lot because I don't have, small hauls some of these months. All right, Deadly Class. And then finally, the reprint of Jonathan Hickman's Fantastic Four. This is the Omnibus Volume 1. At the time of this recording, Volume 2 actually just has come out as well. So I'll be showing that off in the April haul video when that comes out in May. But I've never had the pleasure of getting my hands on the omnibuses of this. I'm so happy with a lot of their other kind of like omnibuses that have been long out of print. Marvel has been taking an opportunity to reprint some of these things that they know or couldn't sell, like, quite frankly, like classic runs, more modern runs that they've had with writers that are very popular. So this is Jonathan Hickman on the Fantastic Four, probably the biggest and best thing he did at this early days of his time on at Marvel, before he did his Avengers stuff, and of course now with the X-Men stuff. But yeah, I'm so happy to finally have this, guys. I was not able to get my hands on either volume of this, so the fact that they reprinted them, I pre-ordered them right away. Take a look at some of the art in this one, but this is a run that's well regarded by many, and even people that aren't a huge fan of Hickman, I think, writing these days, say that his Fantastic Four run is good. So that's any indicator. If you're not a huge Hickman fan, I think the one thing a lot of people connected with, even though they may not like his style, the way he writes, is his Fantastic Four stuff. So if you like the Fantastic Four, or even if you don't, I really suggest checking this out. This was excellent. Really enjoyed it. I'll let you know what's collected in this one, because I think it's worth mentioning. It's not so clear cut and obvious, this one. So the Council of Reeds, it's just, it's his father and everyone else, like a lot of cool ideas that were established during this run that have still kind of are still around to today. And it did create a through line of stories that kind of came together throughout his Avengers run, and kind of concluded in his Secret Wars miniseries before he left Marvel many years ago, and then came back recently with the X-Men stuff. So yeah, but anyways, this omnibus collects Fantastic Four 1 to 5, Dark Reign, Fantastic Four 570 to 588, and FF 1 to 5 in material from Dark Reign, the Cabal one shot. So yeah, that is the FF series was going on concurrently, the Future Foundation stuff, as his Fantastic Four series. He was writing both with different artists. There's a lot of Nick Dragata art that's maybe in the second volume of FF. I don't know if he started out in the series, but he definitely worked with Hickman on the Future Foundation series before they went off to Image Comics and did East to West as well. So yeah, definitely check this out, guys. I'm so glad to finally own this. And last but not least, before we get into the books that I've never read that I picked up throughout the month of March 2022, this is, speaking of Hickman, this is the Hickman X-Men Omnibus. And, I got to say, kind of boring spine design, or just design overall. Look at this. I mean, we all know that does the Marvel Omnibus, the red part on an omnibus. Like here's the Hickman Fantastic Four, for example. Okay, we're used to that. But the fact that they chose to design this book with the red spine, and then they just combined it with a single solid red just to make it an all red book, just very boring, guys. Like, I know, like, a lot of the X-Men books, that's how their kind of design has been very simplistic and monocolored, and maybe to represent different factions of the X-Men. I don't know. And I know that he also is usually involved in some of the design work, Hickman, that goes into some of these things, but that's super boring. Like, I mean, the fact that they paid somebody maybe to design this spine, it's pretty lame. But anyway, just wanted to throw that out there. X-Men, this omnibus collects 1 to 12 and 16 to 21. And then you got Giant Size X-Men, Jean Grey and Emma Frost, number 1, Nightcrawler, number 1, Magneto, number 1, Phantom X, number 1, and Storm, number 1. Of course, the issues that are not contained here, I think 13 to 15, are going to probably be like the X of Swords issues. Any of those issues are kind of collected, I guess, in the X of Swords hardcover that already previously has come out. And probably through those like Arena of X trades, Dawn of X trades, or there's those ones they kind of kept out of the main storyline, even though they were written by Hickman for the main series, because of the fact they're part of that big event that cross over into all the X books. It wouldn't have fit or been appropriate in this one. So let's just take a look at some of the art here. Laniel Francis Yu, of course, provided some of the art on this series. But yeah, I did enjoy Hickman's time on the X-Men. I mean, the lead-in prior to this main series of the X-Men that he wrote with House of X, Powers of 10, like that, of course, was excellent. I think even if you weren't a fan of what he did on the main series stuff or what came after that setup series, Powers of 10, House of X, it's really about a lot of the ideas that he set in motion in the status quo that's still around today that you need to focus on, that Hickman was responsible for. So like, yeah, everybody else is now getting involved on the X books, all kinds of different titles, all types of different writers, and maybe a vision or ideas moving forward. But the stuff that he actually put in motion from the start with the whole Krakoa and everything else, I think that there's going to be some interesting stories to come in the years to come because of a result of what Hickman did earlier on. So I will say I think it was still somewhat successful, if not maybe as successful as some people were hoping, because it seems like editorial or something maybe got him to move away from the title by the time he finished out his run on the X book. But even that all being said, I think it was still a lot of great stuff to check out here during this period of time, and I'm happy to have this omnibus along with all the other oversized hardcovers of the X books during this period of time on my shelf. So yeah, there you go. All right, and these are the books that I've never read that I'm going to be showing off here today for you guys. And I know, shame on me, I have never read the Swamp Thing run by Alan Moore, but now that the third and final of these Absolute editions has come out, I will be checking this out and reading it for the first time in the coming months. And, maybe I'll have to give my review on this when I finally do get around to it, do a special video for it, because I think it's one of those things that I should have read a long time ago. I even had the hardcovers, the older, smaller hardcovers that they had brought out, the 6 volumes of this prior to picking up the Absolutes, but I never actually read it, never got around to it. And it's just a big blind spot in my reading history. And yeah, this is the Absolute editions. They came out with 3 volumes of these. Let's take a look inside the slipcase. And they got a kind of very, very interesting feel to them, like mossy, kind of felty kind of feel. I think for Swamp Thing, it's a good choice to have it kind of feeling like this. And yeah, nice cover. I do like the look of these. And again, I know some people were upset at some of the recoloring that they chose to do on these, and the fact that after the first volume, they also changed it to DC Black Label. So if you didn't get the reprint of the first volume, which also had some binding issues, which is the case in my case as well. The box sets are going to say go from maybe Vertigo or DC to Black Label now. It's actually going to change the look on your shelf. So anyways, I'm trying not to let any of that stuff bother me, the recoloring and everything aside, but I'm looking forward to checking this out for the first time. So yeah, see, I think it's a little bit more garish. Some people were saying a little bit more brighter or recolored. It looks like it's not as faded looking. I guess they purposely kind of made it look a little bit more bold for the recoloring on these, and that bugs people. I get that, but for someone who's going to be visiting it, checking this out for the first time, I look forward to it. And yeah, the Alan Moore run and Swamp Thing, everyone. Very much looking forward to checking this out. I'm going to read it now that I got all 3 Absolutes. Happy to own this. And if you've yet to check it out as I have, what are you waiting for? Check it out. All right, then we got this Captain America Epic Collection, Arena of Death. This is another of the Mark Grunwald era epic collections of Captain America. I think there's only a few more to collect his entire run on this on the character, and this one collects issues 411 to 419, annual 11 to 12. Ghost Rider, Captain America, Fear, U.S. Agent 1 to 4, material from Silver Sable and the Wild Pack 15. This is volume 19 in the Epic collections from 92 to 93. And like I said, it only I think there's only like 2 or 3 more volumes to go, probably, to collect the whole Mark Grunwald era on Cap. I've been collecting them all. I've heard it has its ups and downs, but it is an era of Captain America that I remember picking up random issues of when I was younger, around this time period. So, I do want to have this on the shelf and check it out and read it all when it is collected. I've yet to read any of these, so I might, really end up hating it. But, especially some of the cheesy kind of things from the 90s, like the Cap Wolf shit and that kind of stuff, when it turns into a werewolf that you hear about during Mark Grunwald's run. But you know what? I've heard it is one of the runs that's worth checking out. There was some interesting things that did occur during his time on the book, and some good artists as well along the way. So I'm looking forward to checking it all out when it is completed. So yeah, Mark Grunwald's time on the character. This was another one I had to pick up. And likewise, I've heard, again, mixed things, but I know a lot of people like the Tom DeFalco run on Fantastic Four, even when it's kind of, maybe not so much when it hit peak 90s era and you get the boob window Fantastic Four outfit for for Sue there. But it is what it is. I mean, you got, again, it's of the era, I guess you could say. So this is the next volume to come out for the Tom DeFalco Fantastic Four stuff. And likewise, I think there may be only 1 or 2 volumes left, probably. This is volume 23 from 93 to 94. And another of the epic collections that I've been picking up during a writer's time on a book that I've yet to read, but I will read once it's all completed. This collects issues 377 to 392 and annual 27, Namor the Submariner 47 to 48, and Fantastic Four Ashcan edition. So yeah, I'll just take a quick flip through this one. But yeah, again, just picking these up because this is an era on a writer that I want to have all collected and read and check out when it is final. So I, keep pumping them out. I think they usually bring out 1 or 2 Fantastic Four epics a year, probably just one that's more modern, and the other one is kind of going back from like when I know they just wrapped up Stan Lee and Jack Kirby's time on the epics and on the book, and now I think it was Stan and John Buscema's time, and or Sal Buscema, I forgot, and then they're gonna now go into, I guess, maybe Jerry Conway, I can't remember. Right? There's a lot of other people that worked on the book during that period of time, or probably what's his name? Now I'm blanking on his friggin' name. He wrote everything for Marvel during that time period. So yeah, it'll come to me eventually. Did a lot of stuff on Conan. Anyways, yeah, so there you go. All right, and then we got an omnibus here. Roy Thomas, that's correct. Yeah, that's it. Now I just remembered. Then we got What If, the original Marvel series, Volume 2 omnibus. Now, I've read most of this. This isn't all material I've never read, but I think even though I had bought all the issues, I hadn't read all of them. I had actually owned all the issues of this original run of What If previous to me picking up the omnibuses, but I dropped that in. I got rid of those in favor of actually picking up these omnibuses. The whole original What If series now is collected in 2 omnibus volumes, which is actually pretty awesome. And yeah, this one's the Wolverine one, the issue where it was, and I like how they do the back where they show all the covers for these ones still. This is What If Wolverine Killed the Hulk, of course, yeah. And their first encounter when they did fight. I mean, that is the first appearance of Wolverine. It's when he looked very cat-like. Len Wein created him. This is during the Hulk. They fought each other, and Wendigo was, I think, in that issue as well, if I'm not mistaken, or one of those creatures, maybe. But yeah, or Sasquatch. I don't think it was Sasquatch from Alpha Flight. Maybe he was in there. I know he used to come tussle with him as well sometimes, right? So I think that was the whole point that he showed up in that issue. I think was with the Alpha Flight, through an Alpha Flight affiliation in the original issue, if I'm not mistaken. But it's been some time since I've read that. I'm sure some people are yelling at the screen right now and being like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" So just shut up. But yeah, I love What If. I love What If as a concept. I really dig the idea of it. I like how a lot of these were dark endings for the characters back then as well. It didn't always work out in their favor. Great array of different artists worked on these stories, and I'm looking forward to reading these for the first time eventually. Some of them, anyways, some revisiting. And I just like to have these on my shelf. Like, this is one series I'm happy to own and have on my shelf. That's definitely a part of the Marvel Universe the Marvel books that I really, really dig. So what if? And once again, shout out to Marvel for reprinting some of these omnibuses, even these very teeny thin ones. But again, this is the Ed Brubaker Captain America run that I didn't have any of the omnibuses because when I first started getting into collected editions, they were all out of print. Maybe not the last two, but I was like, I'm not going to bother picking those up because the first three ones were out of print at that time. And so I just never, and I only read the first omnibus worth of material through paperbacks for the Ed Brubaker Captain America run. As much as I love him and as much as I've heard his run is fantastic, I've never actually read it. So I'm looking forward to diving in once again and starting these. I think there's about 2 more that they need to reprint and bring out with, and hopefully those come out at the end of 2022, going into 2023. Because the first 3 are already out of this. This is Captain America Lives. This collects Captain America 43 to 50, 600 to 601, Reborn 1 to 6, and the Reborn Prologue. And yeah, you got artists Brian Hitch, Jackson Geis, Gene Colan, Steve Epting, and Luke Ross. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to finally reading and checking out Brubaker's Captain America. So let's take a look at some of the art in here. And yeah, we got 3 volumes that were reprinted. We're just waiting on the final 2 now. And yeah, that's definitely one of these other things, along with Swamp Thing, that shame on me, I've never read. But if I don't read the first 3 now and wait for the other 2, I'll wait for the other 2 and read all of them together. I just haven't decided as of yet. But it's not like I have a lack of things to read, guys. So the fact that I finally have these on my shelf, I know this is going to be a run that I enjoy, even from the little bit I've read and how much I love Captain America and Ed Brubaker. More so Ed Brubaker than Cap, but I'm sure I'm going to dig this. All right. And we got the newest volume of the new Usagi IDW series that's coming out in color now that IDW owns the rights to Usagi, or at least the printing rights through Stan Sakai. I have, a bunch of paperbacks collecting all of his other stuff, the stuff through Fantagraphics days, as well as the Dark Horse stuff. I have everything really pretty much collected up to this point. And so I've been picking up the paperbacks of these new color series that have been coming out. IDW is also been recoloring all of his old black and white comics and re-releasing those. That I'm not bothering to pick up. I don't need those in color. They're originally in black and white, so I'm gonna keep it that way. But these new stories that he's coming out with now are meant to be in color and are printed in color originally from the start. These have been coming out in issues. So this particular paperback collects the new Usagi Yojimbo ongoing series published by IDW 15 to 21. So yeah, so that's what this collects. And this one has the Tengu War storyline. But like I said, some series, if you've read Usagi before, it's this, almost like the same type of stories kind of always being told, but great cartooning from Stan Sakai. And yeah, and it definitely is one of those things. I mean, if you've read one, you feel like you've read them all. It's always got like a same type of feel or storyline going on, but it's always just like a fun time. And not to say that everything reads the same and everything's the same. It's just like that same aesthetic you definitely get from this, this one unique writer's and artist's vision, for as he is the creator of Usagi and has been doing comics, doing his adventures for like 30 years now, right? So I mean, you're gonna, what to expect if you do like Usagi and you come checking this book out. And if you've never checked it out, like I said, there's 3 trades right now out of the IDW stuff for this new series in color. If black and white's maybe a turnoff to you, this is your chance, man. Get in on the ground floor. They're also reprinting his older stuff in color. Great stuff. All right, then we got X-Men Bishop's Crossing Epic Collection. That's right. So this is, I think, just past the content that's collected in the X-Men omnibuses of the Jim Lee era on the book, even though I think he's still here writing it at this point in time. But so this was previously collected. There's an oversized hardcover of this stuff, which I don't have. I don't have the omnibuses of this because, like I said, after the Jim Lee 2-volume stuff, after Claremont leaves, this stuff is not collected in it. But I have heard good things about this story and this period of time, with the creators and maybe the fallout of what had happened at that time. I'm sure this is when Lee leaves and Lobdell joins, according to the cover here, as he's coming on there as well at that period of time. So this is 91 to 92, volume 20 of the X-Men Epics, and this collects 281 to 288 of Uncanny X-Men, the annual number 16, X-Men 4 to 9, X-Men Annual 1, and Ghost Rider 26 to 27. Yeah, the coming of Bishop. So yeah, this is the main reason why I wanted to pick this up, because I don't have this collected in anything else. And this might be the end of that era for me in terms of the stuff I want to collect until probably later in like the 2000s. So happy to have this. Not usually an X-Men epic buyer, but there you have it. And finally, the stuff that I've never read before that I'll be checking out for the first time that I picked up throughout the month of March 2022. We got the newest volume of the Tales from the Crypt paperbacks that Dark Horse has been coming out with. Previously, these were printed as hardcovers, but they've been coming out with these cheap, 1999 US retail priced paperbacks, reprinting that same material, this classic EC archives comic stuff. And I'm just happy to own it finally because, like I said, the hardcovers were out of print and hard to come by. And this has the classic Tales from the Crypt comics collected in these. There's a few lines of this stuff between the horror and sci-fi stuff of the EC that they're reprinting now that I have been picking up lately. And I'm happy to own it. And it's a great price point, honestly, guys. It's very affordable and happy to have it. Haven't read any of it yet. That maybe a couple small short stories just to try it out of the first volume of Tales of the Crypt that I picked up. But again, this is something I'll probably just want to have and dip into whenever possible. And this one collects issues 23 to 28. There you have it. And that's going to do it for this video, guys. Thank you for tuning in as always. If you have any suggestions about how you kind of want these videos presented in the future, any comments on how, I give the reviews out, or even like the way that the camera is set up for the books, or anything you might want to see differently, please, let me know in the comments. All your comments are appreciated. And thank you for tuning in and watching these videos. And make sure you're subscribed to the channel if you want to see more. Once again, hit that notification bell, the thumbs up button. It's the Late Night Collectors community. More comic content on its way, as well as ongoing, other than these monthly videos that I do. Once again, we do the weekly new comic book weekly reviews for the new single issues that hit the stands that me and my buddy Chris talk about and pick up each week. So make sure to check that out. That's Comic Shop Talk here on the Late Night Collectors community. Plus, if you guys are into cards, trading cards, Pokemon cards, anything like that, sports cards, we also do videos called Cracking Packs with the Chat that we put out as well on this channel. This is a channel, dedicated to things that are interesting to us, that we collect, any hobbyist type stuff that we're into, any of me or the members of the Late Night Chat Network, which we're under the umbrella of course. That's where I started out on YouTube as well, the Late Night Chat Network, where we do all kinds of different videos over there as well. But this little corner over here is dedicated to, comics, cards, things that we collect and that we're into, toys sometimes. As you can see, I got a bunch over my shoulder. I've done some reviews of that. So check it out. We got all kinds of stuff on our playlist here. More stuff to come. Thank you for tuning in as always. And we'll see you next month for the haul of April 22, which will drop in May. So we'll see you then. Thanks again, guys.